Hey, was it Rat? No, it was Motley Crue that did
No.
that.
What?
That movie they did on, I think it was on Netflix. Did you see? It's called The Dirt.
What a perfect name.
I think maybe it was Motley. I think maybe it was Motley Crue. Maybe it was either them or Rat. I think it was Motley Crue, and
Yeah,
it was
it's
kind
gotta
of the
be
history
Motley.
of them in L.A. and the total decadent '80s,
Yeah.
and it's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah. That was.
But don't let the kids watch it. It's just woo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
life in the '80s as a
Yeah.
hair band in
Keep
LA.
keep your daughters away from Tommy Lee.
Yes, I think that's we. You know what? We can shut down today's program now. That was the wisdom for the day. Keep your daughters away from Tommy Lee.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks for tuning in. So subscribe, like, and share.
Oh my
and we'll
God.
see you next week. Remember www.iotcoffeetalk.com.
They had one heck of a guitarist.
Oh yeah, Mick Mars, Mr. I mean, he looked like he rose from the ninth level of hell.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And it came up with some really great riffs. I mean, they had great tunes.
Wait. Well,
I mean,
so what band did Dave Navarro play for? Was he with
Jane's Addiction.
Jane's Addiction? Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. I like Jane's Addiction. That was good stuff.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see Dave? Speaking of Dave Navarro, all right, you've always had American Idol and all these shows like that. Many, many years ago, it happened two times. It was during the summertime. They, like sometimes the networks try to have a new show just in the summer,
Yeah.
and it was like that, except it was for rock. It was like hardcore,
Yeah.
and it was called Rockstar. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I actually managed to get a DVD of the two seasons. The first one was called Rockstar in Excess. And the gist of it was In Excess was like, we need to get a new lead singer. We're a bunch of old guys, but we need a young guy. And but Dave Navarro and a whole bunch of rockers were the judges on the panel, like hardcore. And then you had all these hardcore rockers doing the singing contest, and they're singing Creep, and it's insane. It was so good. And ultimately they picked the guy, and he became the new lead singer for In Excess. And then the next summer they did Rockstar Supernova. But anyway, Dave Navarro and all these hardcore rockers, it was like so like right up my alley. It's like, why couldn't American Idol be like this? Even though I probably said this before, I'm so pumped about that young girl who's on American Idol who sang Black Hole Sun. Did you see that?
Wow, no.
Oh my God, she's like 15.
Really?
And everyone's always on that show singing pop stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
She's up there and she's dressed kind of hippie-ish. She kind of looks like she's doing this Janis Joplin, and she just kills it singing Black Hole Sun.
Really?
And people were like, we have never had anyone sing this kind of music, grunge, on our show. And the girl's got talent, man.
Yeah, and it's
15.
grunge's fault. You know that grunge killed rock and roll and resurrected it from the dead and put a bunch of dirt on it.
It put a bunch of dirt on it. As I've often said, if Guns N' Roses had stayed together a little longer and didn't burn out, they could either prevented or at least delayed the grunge movement. Because remember, Guns N' Roses was kind of the end of the 80s going into the beginning of the 90s.
Yep. That
And
was
so-
the last thing that was cool.
But Axl, woo, what can you expect, right? Some kind of cold November rain or something. It's all I can think of.
Yeah, and you know what? That's about the time I think they invented the term digital transformation. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Yeah.
Great segue.
Yeah.
Great segue. I was going to throw a welcome to the jungle transformational thing, but that was good.
Last forever and a cold November rain.
By the way, we've been doing this for over a year now.
Oh my
Never
God.
really, brought that up. But after, what is this? This is going to be like episode number 55 or something like that.
This is the only thing that's kept us going through the pandemic is this show.
Exactly.
And the millions of viewers out there who are watching this show every week. They're hanging on by a thread, and we are that thread.
Oh, yes. That has kept society together. That has kept IoT together.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's
For the better part of the
billions.
year.
And it's billions of people.
Billions.
Because,
Billions.
there's the millions that we can account for, but the
Yeah.
billions that we actually market to.
Billions
Actually,
of people.
I have a funny feeling we are connecting to more devices than we are people because we are IoT, right?
We are IoT with music
Yeah.
and amazing electric guitar riffs,
Yes,
Only
indeed.
the best from the 80s and the 90s.
That's right. Is this like a radio show? Can we do music? Should we be on Sirius XM with our own channel or something?
I think so.
This is better than Howard Stern, don't you think? I mean, yeah.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
If you're a geek and you're a struggling IoT entrepreneur, I mean, I don't think there's a better show.
Yes.
Quite honestly.
The life of the IoT entrepreneur, it means hopping from company to company as company X burns out and company Y just read their first ever article about IoT and got really pumped about it and they're hiring. And so you jump onto them and then they find out what's the real deal.
Yeah.
And then they lay everybody off. And then anyway, that's the IoT thing. You hop from company to naive company.
Yeah.
Hopefully acquire an experience to make, hopefully, right?
Hopefully. It's like Frogger.
Frogger. Well, yeah, you have to learn. I mean, I think you'll eventually figure out what the opportunities are, and then you'll start a real startup and do something real. We've talked about that quite a bit, and so I think that, but oddly, I think that's a lesson that has been very difficult for the digital transformation world to learn. And Rob, I know that you made a post, actually it was this week, right? Beginning part of this week, about how all this hoopla about digital transformation, which has been around forever, it's...
Yeah, we're totally knee deep in the hoopla.
Yeah. And you know what? I've actually been out of the whole digital transformation discourse. I typically see that as being sort of this academic, high level consulting type of thing where down at the levels that we're typically dealing with, where we're basically at the ground level and there's a ground truth we have to deal with. None of this stuff floats.
Ground truth
just does not resonate as you go down. And
because it was like a one sentence thing, but it was based on just learnings over the years and actually a little research I was doing. So, wow, I did research.
Oh,
there's these high-minded, just like IoT, you hear these high-minded people, IoT is not about the things, or it's not about everything that IoT is about. It's about something else. Well, digital transformation, I always hear high-minded ideas coming from industry analysts, and that it's not about this, it's about culture, it's about transforming minds and business processes and reimagining, and that's fine. So I hear about it a lot, but then I actually did research as if I was an actual analyst, kind of looking at what most companies think of it, or when they're hiring, what are they hiring for when they find these digital transformation people to help them. It turns out, I'm just going to throw this number out there. It's totally made up. I'm going to say 1% of the companies that are talking a good game, plus all the analysts out there, are talking about super esoteric shit around digital transformation and saying it's this tectonic shift and it's reimagining everything. And it's huge, and it's company culture and it's new processes and everything. But then the rest of the 99% of the companies are saying, we think it's going from paper processes to using computers and communication, or human entering data out in the field, on a clipboard to some digital thing. And as it turns out, most regular folks out there, and that's actually most companies on the planet, they just want to, all they're looking for is a digital equivalent to the manual thing they're currently doing, which doesn't sound as exciting or esoteric, but it's just reality, so it's like, oh, I think I've been on that software project 1,000 times now, since the 90s, where we went from capturing it on pen and paper to capturing either on some app on a laptop in the 90s and Windows, to capturing it on a smartphone or capturing it on an iPad or an Android tablet or whatever, to get that data back, which is kind of analogous to IoT, which is capturing data, autonomously from machines or things and sending it back. And sometimes that is a replacement for a person typing it in.
Yeah.
But so maybe that's why I thought let's talk about that. Let's talk about the high-minded esoteric versus the on the ground floor of getting shit done.
Yeah, David, you probably have a lot of perspective on this because you deal with a lot of the truth on the ground, right?
I
sell stuff to clients or whether or not you're delivering.
Well, I cracked a joke, with manually entering data into the ERP on Rob's post, because this whole thing with digital transformation, we're humans. We like, or most of us anyway, we like tangible things. And the reality is, to Rob's point, that 99% of these projects, it's like, oh, you got rid of the clipboard and now it's automated. Excellent. No paper. Like, that's huge. And then you get this isn't only specific to manufacturing, but here's the thing: there's tons of businesses out there of all sizes that a incorrect input, a manually incorrect input does cost a lot of, sometimes a shit show down the line. It's that plain and simple. Yeah. So in terms of, being esoteric about it and putting these numbers for digital transformation, these are some of the examples that the hypers hang on to, because in reality, if I can eliminate this manual process and digitize it, which now I can eliminate an error because it was a 0, not an O. It was a hyphen, not an underscore. It was, it fixed a goddamn character. And now those issues that were happening down the line are no longer there. Therefore, the market for digital transformation is a quadrillion, gazillion Bitcoins.
Oh my God, let's do a startup now.
Oh. Wow.
Yes.
Bitcoin is digital transformation.
Yes.
And also, and now, let's also think of, operationally how that changes. If I'm the resource with the clipboard, and you have replace the clipboard with, a tablet, a phone, an HMI somewhere, like, you've digitized a process. If you found a way to, get me out of the equation, I've been here, so give me another job, and automate the data capture, like in IoT, you've also digitally transformed that process. And in manufacturing, you know what that means? That the folks walking around the plant, writing things down to then going back to the office to manually crunch numbers, they can do the number crunching more efficiently.
It looks like you just described a maturity model.
Yeah.
Did I do it on purpose?
You did. You should write a paper about the new maturity model for digital transformation. Step 1, human being walks over to device, looks at it, goes back, types into the computer, maybe makes errors in transcribing from his cursive that he can't even read, to, next time I have a tablet, go to look at the thing, enter it in. And yes, also, how you have field validation as you're typing in to make sure you don't just screw up. And submit, boom, magic of wireless, goes into his computer system, done.
Good.
Then the thing,
IoT.
The thing just tells the back-end system its value, its status. That's something. I think there's a business there. It's a digital transformation maturity model created by Mr. Vasquez.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you have the, sticking to, again, because I like to use the example of humans with manually inputting things, because operationally, like we see those people, right? If we all work together, that, Vasquez is collecting this data. And then one day, like I'm doing something else, and it's probably because I'm taking a nap in the storage room. But visually, it's like, oh, wait, we've transformed something. Like the process is different. Is this the same as if you're in a plant and you're looking at the Andon board to see if things are moving the way they're supposed to? What happens when that's gone because stuff's integrated? A waiting room of any waiting room. When you go in, what do we look for? It's like, man, how many people are in this line, right? Versus, no, there's a screen that says, yes, there's 100 people, but they're here for 17 different things. If you're here for X, you're going to wait 6 minutes. And now you're like, oh, I can deal with 6 minutes. DMV, take note. You should do this everywhere.
It's like that app they have at Disney. They have the app at Disney, and it tells you the waiting times at different rides.
Yeah.
There it is. That's awesome.
And look, it's again back to, I know it's at the bottom of the maturity model, but the Disney example before it was digitized, what did you have? You had a sign every amount of meters or feet, saying if you are here, the wait is 33 minutes, and that's how you knew. Yeah. And so these things, once you remove them and they are digitized, this is what I think we attach a lot of the value to, because it's the things that we could see that have changed, not the tectonic stuff that we read about.
Because we're not tectonic at all here.
Plates are not here.
We are a bunch of digital cavemen, and we're going to transform you thus so. Because I remember just not too many years ago when I was still at Microsoft, and I was going and spending time with a customer in El Paso, and it was a natural gas company. And I went out in the field with them, and they were doing the paper thing. And I was like, I checked my watch. 21st century, just double checking. They were still doing stuff on paper. And then they'd get in the pickup truck and they'd drive back, and they go to their computer system and they have their clipboard or their whatever here, and they want and type it again to whatever, SAP or some database or something like that. And sometimes they made errors. And I remember I said, let me just try something overnight. And I went to my hotel room, and overnight I created this little web app with HTML5 was kind of new. And it had the notion of kind of offline and saving locally on HTML5 data. Mm-hmm. Next day I showed up with it was just a tablet running in the web browser. And I'm like, well, what if you entered that stuff right here and it's offline when you're not connected, and as soon as you're connected, it's online, and then it just submits to that same thing. And they were just like, you're from the future. And I'm like, and I didn't think anything of it because we've been doing this stuff forever. But you know what? They were the nicest people in the world, and they thought it was a miracle. And all of a sudden I was like, you kind of have an epiphany. Like that saying that the future is already here, but it's not evenly distributed. Yeah. I think that's the reality. I think the future is only in tiny pockets, actually. I think most of the world is still living in the 80s or 90s, maybe. I don't know. But I think we can all help them. And since we're grounded, normal folks and not esoteric, high-minded, Kurzweil people, we'll be taking you through the Vasquez maturity model for digital transformation. Indeed. I'm sure Leonard Lee's next paper for Next Curve will talk about the Vasquez maturity model. You're
going to be famous, dude.
Infamous.
I
love your T-shirt, by the way.
Oh,
and I think. My God. I'm thinking. You tell me if I'm wrong.
Future.
Whoa. So
not just single robot, not just robotics, double robotics.
Many years ago.
That's like robotics squared.
Many years ago in the past, I was invited by Verizon to a special event at a little pop-up fancy thing they had in Pioneer Square in Seattle, maybe to look like a new cool store. I know they built one in LA and some other stuff where it was all, but they had that thing going around the room with the screen on it.
It was called Vigo, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's the one story that stuck to me because I was a small part of a project. back in the day, when we turned on LTE in Anchorage, Alaska, we had pockets. I think there was at least one school included that went from not having, connectivity where you can stream things to the next day, boom. And that was one of the first real life examples of this remote learning that had like an impact. And I'll never forget, because it was like, nope, we cannot do that. There's no infrastructure. And the next day, boom. Well, that Vigo was completely integrated. These guys, I met them at CES many moons ago when, I would be crazy saying like, oh, yes, I'm going this year. But they took an iPad off the shelf. They disassembled a Roomba or, whatever it was. And then they had this thing, for telepresence at a third of the cost of everything else. Anyway, I got a T-shirt out of it, and I
love it.
They were using, awesome. This is the future. You're from the future, right?
I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
I love that whole 50s style, design there.
We took a Roomba and we jammed a broomstick in it, and then we taped an iPad to the broom part, and boom.
Go. Done.
Go.
Telepresence.
Yes. I love it.
But Leonard, look, on this digital transformation thing, what about processes? Because I know we've been talking about, technology, but what about how do you digitally transform processes that are not necessarily bogged down by paper, because they are on systems already, right? There's systems of records. And for things to happen, we need to enter data into the systems of record, and through integration and magic and other shenanigans, we get this. And we've been doing it the same way since these guys actually dress like this.
Yeah.
How do we digitally transform processes?
Well, I think it's okay. So here's my take on it. I was thinking about this while you guys were rapping. It boils down to having closing the gaps in data around a process. Then once you've done that, then you can actually do something with the process, whether it's automation or creating new workflows or what have you. Without closing those gaps, you have a lot of challenges. So in the IT world, one of the biggest problems that any large ERP, that initial ERP project faced, was getting that data off of all those Excel spreadsheets. And we continue to do that today. There isn't a single organization out there that doesn't still have a crap ton of very bespoke or maybe even specific data sitting in Excel spreadsheets that are actually critical to a process, right? The reason why they have it there is because the ERP system can't handle that particular function or calculation properly, so they have to go off the system to make that happen. And it's
I'm smirking because I have this like 2 gig Excel spreadsheet that I had to deal with, and something crashed, but the good folks at Microsoft thought about the autosave, and it just saved my life yesterday. Thank you, Microsoft.
And so
thanks, Bill.
That's really the big problem. And when we talk about factory floor automation, you have the exact same problem, right? And with all these people talking about digital twins, you can have a digital twin of your factory in brownfield. Good luck. Think about all the gaps in data. All that stuff either not being captured because you don't have sensor on that thing that you need in order to have visibility to the process. Think about just all the stuff that's sitting across, in Excel spreadsheets and other data stores that are going to be very difficult to integrate, right? And so I don't think that problem is unique to IT. I think the OT world has been dealing with that. It's a big problem, but it's still not a problem solved on the IT or enterprise side of the house either. Think about all the crazy technologies that had to be developed. And I talk about middleware all the time. middleware has a huge role in making sense of all of these disconnected data stores, processes, and I think it's an important tool to drive that maturity that you're talking about. But the biggest challenge is getting access to that data that is not in a system. It's in a spreadsheet.
So I'm with you, and using this brownfield example, you're validating my simple-minded, single firing neuron that's in here somewhere notion that
there's only one.
And I know it, and when it goes, good to meet you guys, but it once again validates my notion that the big bang out of digital transformation is that initial analog brownfield pre-World War II machine where I have shown you data in one of these guys. Like, that is the wow value. Let's do it. And then, so this is another one of those good outcomes, very likely, there's profit, revenue, efficiency, there's all these things grounding it, which is great for those, for the consumers. But, the hype on this one is also out of control. So, I think we're back to, folks, let's ask better questions. What digital transformation are you selling me that's different than the other guy or gal that was selling it to me the other day?
Yeah, hey, but it's not just brownfield, greenfield too, because if you really think about it, a lot of the greenfield enterprises or new business models that might be emerging in and quote unquote disrupting a legacy industry, these guys don't know what they're doing. When I was working consulting for .coms, we had to help them invent what the back office was for a quote unquote internet company. Nobody knew. They didn't know, how do we take all the stuff coming out of the ad management system and then connect it to the contract system and figure out how to bill and automate make goods against these contracts every month and scale these businesses. It was actually a very people intensive back office at the time. So even these greenfield progressive businesses weren't able to figure out, and they had all the tech geeks you could ever want in their organization. They still couldn't figure out, okay, how do we automate all this stuff? And they were greenfield. They actually had tons of stuff in Excel spreadsheets, on paper, all kinds of crazy disconnected systems. It was insanity. But you would think that because these are quote unquote digital native companies, that they would know how to do all this stuff and be completely forward thinking about their back office processes. Is absolutely not.
But if you're digital native, but your business, I hate
that term.
Whatever you no, there's worse terms than that.
I brought it up, so shame on me.
If you're digital native business and whatever it is that you're doing, you have the stuff that you use to make your product, whether it's machines or software or whatever it is. If those components are not cloud native, this is why you cannot just be greenfield and completely digital on day two, because you have that legacy of systems. Like, look, we can come up with a fancy manufacturing plant. By the way, Hitachi, Portland, Hillsboro, new fab shop, excellent.
Really?
So, yes, there's a press release from Tokyo 2 days ago.
Okay, all right.
Why do I follow these guys more than you?
Because you're plugged in.
Maybe
it's maybe
I have in your backyard, bro.
Maybe I have a weird relationship with Hitachi. I don't know.
I 3D printed a badge that said David Tiffany, and I'm just gonna go through those doors like I belong here. But back to the matter of hand. So if new factory, I think is for it's for some size of semiconductors, but great, and it's going to be super fancy, everything brand new. But the machine builders that are making the machines that will make the semiconductors, if those vendors, those suppliers are not, again, cloud native, even though it's a greenfield operation, we're going to have brownfield problems right away.
Why do you have to be cloud native?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that because Leonard said digital native. I'm just messing with it.
I said, yeah. And so he had to up me on like ludicrous.
Yeah, it was one up in the hype.
Be buzzword ludicrous.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
We're going to call you Luda from now on, David.
Yeah, or Ludafisk. Yeah, Fitty. So some of the high-minded stuff, what I'll hear about, and I think we're kind of touching on it too, Ron, is what's the difference? Some people would say, well, that thing you just talked about was just digitization. Did you hear people start talking about something called digitalization, which sounded like it was like putting another syllable into digitization? And then, and then I heard that digital transformation had to go beyond. So we have our Vasquez maturity model. The next step was to sit back and say, is the process that we're recreating digitally, does that even make sense now? Is there a better way to do it? Because all we did is we digitally recreated the physical manual process, which is huge. And for most companies, that's moving the value needle in a giant way. Is there a next step? I don't know if you remember back in the 90s, you guys weren't born yet, but they had big thing back then was business process reengineering. And what are you
talking about? I invented that, dude. What are you talking about?
I had a feeling you invented it.
Again.
But so sometimes digital transformation to speak sounds like business process reengineering to me, because then they go to that next level. It's like, well, the thing you recreated digitally isn't even the right thing anymore. You need to re-engineer that because there's probably a better, different way to do that. But I think that should just be part of a maturity model that another step you could choose to take, but you shouldn't bash doing the simple stuff,
You know what? And here's the really funny thing. So you sit there and you codify this stuff and put it into ERP. And then next thing you know, you find out that like the ERP system is so rigid that actually holds
SAP
you back. It prevents you from being adaptable. And that's where you start to get off the digital track, and then people start doing all the weird, funky stuff. And and first off, there is no digital transformation. Like what you guys are saying, it's a maturity model, and what that connotes is that you're constantly evolving your business, and you just happen to have tools along the way that can help you out in different ways. They'll also get you stuck in certain instances along your transformation or evolutionary journey. And you're going to have to deal with prototypical problems. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is, do you have the infrastructure processes that can help you be more adaptable, whatever the hell that means, right? For your business.
Whatever that means. You know what that means? That means that Anderson Consulting needs to back up the school bus and do a $60 million business process reengineering project with you to find that little needle in the haystack you're talking about. Yeah. They'll find it. It might take several years.
Yes, but there has to be deliverables.
Millions of dollars, huh?
There has to be value. They need to take the 7 different ERP versions that are in there and deliver 17 of them.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's failure.
And stacks of paper, lots of reams of paper with reports and stuff.
Absolutely.
Well, that consolidation, that standardization is very constraining. I've done some very large global transformation projects where you try to consolidate business models and then squeeze them into an ERP, a simplified ERP configuration. And the downside of that is it actually boxes you in. So all these like things that are being sold as best practices oftentimes have a negative effect at some point in time, because when you think in terms of transformation, you're thinking in terms of snapshots. That's what transformation is. evolution, and then embedding the principles or the concept of adaptability and building that capability into your business, that's a different mindset. It's a different methodology. It ain't digital transformation. It's something different, and we're not geared. Right now, the industry is not geared towards supporting that for enterprises. What they're geared toward is just selling stuff into the moment, whether or not that stuff that they're selling is actually going to create roadblocks to adaptability going forward. So I don't know. You guys inspired me. I don't know where that came from.
You should write a new paper.
Yeah. What would it be called? Exactly.
Digital
Great title. Hey, check out my new book on digital transformation called
yeah. It's digital transformation. Yeah, that's right.
Love it.
I don't know how long you could stand it, but the first time I watched Beavis and Butthead was in Spanish, so the only thing that was the same word. Anyway, you should check it out.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know,
you might also want to, I don't know, drink or inhale something before.
My first experience with Beavis and Butthead, I was in the Navy at the time, and I was gone for long periods of time on my submarine. And I remember returning back home, and my wife and we had an apartment in Seattle in Ballard. And I just remember coming home for the first time and turning on the TV and sitting there and like, what the hell is this? And they're watching videos. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. The screaming trees. Yes. Grunge is cool. And I was dying. I fell off the couch. I was like, what have I been missing? I'm living in a cave somewhere underwater. It was magical for me.
It was clever.
Thank you,
Beavis and Butthead. It was terrifying for me because the first time I saw Beavis and Butthead and realized how popular it was, the first thought that came into my mind was this is the start of the decline of
Western civilization.
I mean, and quite honestly, what came after that is like this huge craze, the reality show craze. Right. And then you got the Kardashians, and then you got all the social influencer silliness and blah, blah, blah. And
we are
where we are today.
You just killed it for me, because here we, talking about digital transformation and, big contracts so that companies make a lot of money. And then you just said the Kardashians. That, in my opinion, I don't know what value they have created for this human ecosystem, but look at their valuation.
Oh, it's
unicorns
off the charts, man.
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's like they were the SPAC plus NFT of 15 years ago, and they cashed out.
But you could say that this show is a combination of the Kardashians, Beavis and Butthead, and technology gone wild.
No, and Wayne's World. Don't forget.
And Wayne's World. And Wayne's World. Absolutely, because we do have better music.
Completely mindless stuff.
And yet we have nuggets of stuff that are real, that move the needle for companies, and it's game changing. Yeah. It's entertaining.
Accidental though.
It's totally accidental.
Once we digitally transform the coffee talk, there will be this AI quantum computing outcome where the nuggets look, and it will be compressed. And in 10 minutes, it's like, okay, let me check out the nuggets of the last year of IoT Coffee Talk. And it's just boom, nuggets coming at you.
You're making me hungry. Are these chicken McNuggets or what kind of?
No, because there's going to be a shortage of chicken McNuggets, folks.
Oh, that's right.
Start buying
JBS,
organic. Buying organic.
Yeah, another hack.
There's probably people out there, because there's so much value from this program that we have, that they're doing the equivalent of Cliff Notes. Or I've heard ads for what is it, Thrillist or something. These deals where you can listen really quick to listen to all these important books, like, Blink and whatever, and just in a short period of time, be really smart. There's people probably doing that, mining all of our shows to put together all the nuggets that are worth billions.
You're welcome, people. You are welcome.
And you know what? The tragedy is that, we've recorded about 50 hours of stuff, and there's probably, all the nuggets are in probably about a minute of content.
I would have said 5 minutes. I would have said, I think 10%.
I bank on a minute.
Come on.
But hey, so the rest of the time is just fun, and then there's 1 minute of insight.
But that's what works, because
they're usually one-liners.
People would be bored out of their minds if we were a bunch of serious guys in lab coats telling you serious stuff. They want to be entertained. Are you not entertained?
I mean, yeah. Well, you know what? I don't care about people. This is IoT. I just care about things. As long as we're resonating with billions and trillions of connected devices.
But I think we brought people into our world today because we've been talking about that evolution, that's people to machines. And what do we know? And I've used this example 10,000 times now. People and machines will be working together for the foreseeable future. And I always love to talk about how it's important to build the internet of people and machines, using the tried and true example use case of the smart meter on your house, using the power of wireless. And it's smart, and it's telling the utility company, hey, this is how much electricity you used. But most of you still have some guy jumping over your fence into the backyard to go write down what it is or type it into a deal. And for the foreseeable future, that's going to be the world we live in, is people and machines. The data source will, the end destination for that device will still be the same if I type it in versus the device being smart. But I think we got to just get real. I think that's what's so great about us, is we're so on the ground floor, caveman real.
Yeah, unga bunga. Unga bunga, baby.
Unga bunga.
Because we also, I think we do a good job at like defending when it makes no sense to invest in technology, because analog is cheaper. And and we do that quite a bit, because as you're talking about the meters, I met a bunch of years ago, I didn't know this, but in the US, we have a lot of I think they're called incorporated water districts, where you have like a private company, small, managing the water supply on behalf of a large company. So I can have 82 homes in a couple of 100 acres, and that's so I'm an 82 meter water company. And back in the day, when we figured out that you can put 3G in a water meter with a trickle charge battery, and we can get a decade out of data before the battery dies. And I'm talking to a customer, listen, when you put it in, you get the data goes to the interwebs, you get your data here, and you just bill it. Like you just, like your ROI is in 2 days, because you don't have to roll the truck. I'm super excited. And this kind human, listened to my pitch and you said, like, David, you know how we read the meters? I'm like, yeah, clipboard and manual. It's like, I pay a kid $23,500 a year on a company scooter. So, and anyway, he killed my ROI. I'm like, yeah, man, I'll come back to you when I drop the price 73%, because all in, this guy was at 23.5 or, a scooter, and one of the kids from the neighborhood that love hauling ass on dirt roads, taking meter readings.
Power to the people.
Yes.
So next week, if Mark is able to get on, we should talk about helium. Did you see what he shared with us? Because it's like in the episode, what I told him is like, look, with blockchain and all this crypto crap, you have to be solving a big problem, and we'll talk about helium, and it'll be interesting. But that's a perfect example. Probably will be, as we examine it, a perfect example of exactly what you're talking about. It's like using technologies that basically don't economically scale for problems that can be solved very easily with either analog or some other technology that's just way cheaper and way simpler to implement and manage.
New startup kid on a scooter.
Yeah, but I don't know. You know what? I just have a feeling that people are going to look back at our episodes and go, "Oh, these guys, yeah, they kind of got it," But this is like time capsule stuff for the moment, because I think people, they don't want to hear what we have to say.
I look forward to sitting
not comfortable
an archive footage of this with my grandkid many years from now. Gee, Grandpa, we were ahead of our time.
He goes, "Oh, Grandpa, you were such an idiot."
When you're taking your granddaughter to the statue of you that was erected for creating the future. Yes. And you're like, and it says at the bottom, it says, "You're welcome."
Oh my God. You know what? Yeah. It sounds like Idiocracy 2. You guys ever see that?
It's the electrolytes.
Oh my God. Oh, we're in trouble. Okay, guys, I'm way out of coffee. Had a great time with you. And
this was great.
Hey, who wants to take us out? Take us out, because I have an itchy nose.
Oh.
Rob, you do it. I did the last one from the cemetery, so it's your turn.
Oh, wow, the cemetery. Okay. Thanks so much for hanging with us, folks. This is the best show on XM Sirius and YouTube. And go visit us at https://www.iotcoffeetalk.com. Not org, not net, but com. We got that thing. We got the .com from GoDaddy. Anyway, and it is SSL encrypted, so you'll be fine, even TLS. And it's going to redirect you. Have you heard of that web redirection? It's going to take you to a YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch us YouTube. It's like television on the internet. It's crazy.
It's automatic.
And you can watch as much. It is automatic. You can even watch it on your phone or on your Google glasses in the shower. So go check it out. Put on headphones for high fidelity, hi-fi. You can choose to use either Dolby or DBX to get some better sound out of that hi-fi. It's great stuff. There's a lot of fun, a lot of music, a lot of banter, Beavis and Butthead, and then a few nuggets of wisdom that will move the value needle for your giant corporation that you're running today. The show is exclusively for CEOs of the world's biggest corporations, because that's who we talk to, and that's who we add value for. You're welcome.
Thank you. That was awesome. See you guys.
Bye. Cheers. Goodbye.